For more games reviews and ratings, subscribe to this channel. In this episode we will review top 5 best video games of all times. We will also publish more episodes of this series to provide information about favorite video games of all time. Stay calm and give your feedback, which will help us to improve and provide more reviews. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is an action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64. It was released in Japan and North America in November 1998, and in PAL regions the following month. Ocarina of Time is the 5th game in the Legend of Zelda series, and the first with 3D graphics. The player controls Link in the fantasy land of Hyrule on a quest to stop the evil King Ganondorf, traveling through time and navigating dungeons and an overworld. The game introduced features such as a target lock system and context-sensitive buttons that have since become common in 3D adventure games. Music plays an important role, as the player must learn to play numerous songs on an ocarina to progress. Ocarina of Time received widespread acclaim and won several awards and accolades. It has been widely cited as one of the greatest video games of all time, with numerous publications ranking it the greatest video game ever made. It was also commercially successful, selling over 7 million copies worldwide. In the United States, it received more than 3 times more pre-orders than any other video game up to that point and was the best-selling game in the country that year. Ocarina of Time is the highest-rated game on review aggregator site Metacritic and the second highest-rated on game rankings. The game was followed by a direct sequel, The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, in 2000. In the early 2000s, Ocarina of Time was re-released as part of The Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition promotional disc for the GameCube, as well as for the IK Player in China. An enhanced version of the game for the Nintendo 3DS, Ocarina of Time 3D, was released in 2011. Both the GameCube and 3DS versions featured Master Quest, an alternative version of the game with new puzzles and increased difficulty, among other differences. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is a skateboarding video game developed by Neversoft and published by Activision. It is the second installment in the Tony Hawk's series of sports games and was released for the PlayStation in 2000, with subsequent ports to Microsoft Windows, Game Boy Color, and Dreamcast the same year. In 2001, the game was ported to the Mac OS, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, and Xbox, as part of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X. The game was later ported to Windows Mobile and Windows Phone devices in 2006 and to iOS devices in 2010. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 uses the same game engine as its predecessor while improving the graphics and gameplay, most notably with the introduction of manuals and cash rewards. The game takes place in a 3-dimensional urban environment permeated by an ambience of punk rock and hip-hop music. The player takes control of a variety of skateboarders and either performs skateboarding tricks or collects certain objects. The game offers several modes of gameplay, including a career mode in which the player must complete objectives and evolve their character's attributes with earned profits, a free play mode in which the player may skate without any given objective, a multiplayer mode that features a number of competitive games, and a level editor that allows the player to create customized levels. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was critically acclaimed upon release and is considered one of the highest-rated video games of all time, as well as the highest-rated sports video game. All versions of the game were praised, including its addictive gameplay, large environments, detailed graphics, fluid and precise controls, customization features and soundtrack, with some minor criticisms directed at the lack of a first-person camera and the truncated soundtrack of the Nintendo 64 version. Grand Theft Auto 4 is a 2008 action-adventure game developed by Rockstar North and published by Rockstar Games. It is the 11th title in the Grand Theft Auto series, and the first main entry since 2004's Grand Theft Auto: San Andreas. Set within the fictional Liberty City, based on New York City, the single-player story follows a war veteran, Nico Bullock, and his attempts to escape his past while under pressure from loan sharks and mob bosses. The open-world design lets players freely roam Liberty City, consisting of 3 main islands. The game is played from a third-person perspective and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. Throughout the single-player mode, players play as Nico Bellic. An online multiplayer mode is included with the game, allowing up to 32 players to engage in both cooperative and competitive gameplay in a recreation of the single-player setting. 2 expansion packs were later released for the game, The Lost and Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony, which both feature new plots that are interconnected with the main Grand Theft Auto 4 storyline, and follow new protagonists. Development began soon after the release of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and was shared between many of Rockstar's studios worldwide. The game introduced a shift to a more realistic and detailed style and tone for the series. Unlike previous entries, Grand Theft Auto 4 lacked a strong cinematic influence, as the team attempted an original approach to the story. As part of their research for the open world, the developers conducted field research around New York throughout development and captured footage for the design team. Following its announcement in May 2006, Grand Theft Auto 4 was widely anticipated. 2. It was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 consoles in April 2008, and for Microsoft Windows in December 2008. Upon release, the game received universal critical acclaim, with praise particularly directed at the narrative and open-world design. Grand Theft Auto 4 broke industry sales records and became the fastest-selling entertainment product in history at the time, earning $310 million in its first day and $500 million in its first week. Considered one of the most significant titles of the 7th generation of video games, and by many critics as one of the greatest video games of all time, it won year-end accolades, including Game of the Year awards from several gaming publications. The game had sold over 25 million copies by 2013, and is one of the best-selling PlayStation 3 games. The game also generated controversy, with criticism directed at the game's depiction of violence and players' ability to drive under the influence of alcohol. Its successor, Grand Theft Auto V, was released in September 2013. SOULCALIBUR is a weapon-based fighting video game franchise by Bandai Namco Entertainment. There are 7 main installments of video games and various media spin-offs, including music albums and a series of manga books. Originally released as an arcade game, Soul Edge, in 1995 and later ported to video game consoles, more recent versions have been released for consoles only and have evolved to include online playing modes. The central motif of the series, set in a historical fantasy version of the late 16th and early 17th centuries, are mythical swords, the evil weapon called Soul Edge and the subsequent sword used to oppose this evil, SOULCALIBUR, parsed as 2 words, while the game's title is written as a single word. While it has developed during its various iterations, some of the characters and gameplay elements have remained consistent throughout the series. Project Soul is the internal Namco development group responsible for the SOULCALIBUR franchise after the release of SOULCALIBUR 2. Although the games are usually credited to Namco itself, the team established its name to draw attention to the group's combined accomplishments. Super Mario Galaxy is a 2007 platform video game for the Wii, and the third 3D game in Nintendo's Super Mario series. As Mario or Luigi, the player embarks on a quest to rescue Princess Peach, save the universe from Bowser, and collect 121 Power Stars. The levels in the game consist of galaxies filled with minor planets and worlds, with different variations of gravity, the central element of gameplay. The player controls the player character using the Wii Remote and Nunchuk, and completes missions, fights bosses, and reaches certain areas to collect Power Stars. Certain levels use the motion-based Wii Remote functions. Nintendo ed Tokyo began developing Super Mario Galaxy after the release of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat in late 2004, when Shigeru Miyamoto suggested that Nintendo should commission a large-scale Mario game. The concept for the use of spherical platforms originated from ideas used in Super Mario 128, a technology demonstration shown at Nintendo Space World in 2000. Nintendo aimed to make the game appeal to players of all ages, and the team had more freedom in designing it compared to other Super Mario games because of the outer space setting. The soundtrack was composed by Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo, using a symphony orchestra for the first time in the series. Super Mario Galaxy was a critical and commercial success, hailed as one of the greatest video games of all time. Super Mario Galaxy is the highest-rated game of all time on review aggregating site GameRankings. Critics praised the game's graphics, gravity mechanics, soundtrack, and setting. It won several awards from gaming publications, including multiple Game of the Year titles, and became the first Nintendo title to win the British Academy Games Award for Best Game. 2. The game is the 9th best-selling Wii game worldwide with sales of 12.80 million. The game was re-released as a Nintendo Selects title in 2011, as a download via the Wii U's eShop in 2015, and on the Nvidia Shield in China in 2018. A sequel, Super Mario Galaxy 2, was released for the Wii in 2010.